Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts, desperately clawing our way out of the cardboard rabbit hole.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. Season finale time, everybody, and that can only mean one thing. In the final segment of this episode, we will tell you our personal picks for best anime of the season. But before that, we have one final series to review. John's very own ball and chain, his baggage, his cross to bear for all eternity, or at least as long as Riki Kawahara keeps on writing it, and they keep on turning it into anime. Of course, I'm talking about the newest season of Sword Art Online, or rather, the first part of the new season of Sword Art Online, because there's more to come. Oh goody!
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it again in 6 months, everybody.
Look forward to that!
Jeff Thu, if you're out there, Mr. Anime Pope, I feel your pain.
Don't we all, at this point. But before we dive into that particular trash pile, we'll take a look at all the shows that couldn't hold our interest long enough to merit a full review in the Chop and Drop. Alright, yeah, Chop and Drop. We checked out a bunch of shows in the sneak peek in winter, and not all of those shows made it into our final review selection, because we didn't stick with all of them, so we'll just quickly talk about why those didn't make it. And I think I'm gonna start this time because I checked out a bunch more shows, or checked out and dropped a bunch more shows than John did. So yeah, first series is Wise, not really worth mentioning because I already said in the sneak peek that even though I'm always interested in smoldering train wrecks, this particular one we already got in an earlier season in the form of its prequel series, Handshakers.
I still can't believe it's a sequel. You're saying that to me? I've read it, I've seen it, I still can't believe it.
Neither could I, neither could anyone else. Like this fucking sneak sequel that nobody expected of a show nobody wanted a sequel to.
What everyone was clamoring for.
Yeah, totally.
Wait.
And boy, it really did look and feel like Handshakers all over again, and I didn't feel like subjecting myself to that all over again, to another iteration of that. So yeah, I dropped it like a hot potato. Yeah, pretty much that's my 2 cents on that. I also instantly noped out of Kimurikusa because shitty CG. Nothing will make it easier on me to drop a show with extreme prejudice. And same goes for the Magnificent Kotobuki that, as I've detailed in your review of it, I did not like their artistic choice when it came to integrating the CG into that show.
If you can call it that.
Yeah, I'm being nice.
Okay, all right.
For
fair.
a change. But yeah, it sounded, and story-wise, judging from your words on it, it sounded like I didn't miss too much there. Except for great dogfights.
Yeah, I mean, the story was a fucking mess.
There you go. Another one I think you also knocked out of was The Price of Smiles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez. I got like maybe 5, 6 episodes in thinking like, okay, when does it get interesting? Never? All right, bye. Because the whole conceit of it was, what was the princess's name? Yuki, I guess, and the other girl from the other military faction. That was supposed to be the conceit of the story, and in the first 5, 6 episodes, that never happens. And I'm like, you're pushing towards this plot point, and you're not getting there, and you're making me say I don't care.
Yeah. I'm not surprised in general, like from the first episode on, the fluffy moe princess didn't really gel with the serious war setting they tried to establish in that show, at least not for me. And I didn't hear great things about where it went.
Hey, did you know? War is bad.
Yeah, well, thanks. I've watched enough Gundam to know. Also, I'm German, and we get that pounded into our little heads from the get-go, because, history. Rightfully so. So, yeah. But yeah, that thing couldn't hold my interest. I think I stayed for it not even as long as you, like for 2 episodes or something, and that was that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. I talked about dogfights earlier, so let's get back to that. Girly Air Force. To my surprise, this was actually a show I stuck with for a while. Granted, AI fighter jets that have robot girl avatar bodies didn't sound really promising. Kind of bad harem show, maybe. But I like the main 2 characters, the AI Griffin and the boy she falls in love with, Kay, who is then recruited to help her overcome her problems with taking flight and all of that. Learning to live a proper life, a normal life, as a kind of human being. And in the beginning, the developing relationship between those 2 was pretty sweet and funny, and their first joint battle was like a real kick-ass moment. The dogfighting in the show was pretty great in general. I don't know if it was as good as Magnificent Kotobuki because I didn't watch that show, but yeah. it was nice. It was nice, and the mystery behind the attacking force of the Zai was interesting. Some of the side characters were neat, so I thought I'd actually, might see this one through. But then a couple of episodes in, the 2 other plain AIs that would become part of Griffin's unit enter the picture, and boy, never has a character made me hit the eject button so fast as did Eagle, who is like this stereotypical blonde, bubbly, loud, grating, giant-boobed American girl, kinda, that is constantly running around, yelling at the top of her lungs, has the IQ of a chestnut, and wants to fuck the guy who invented her and the other AIs. So yes, she basically wants to fuck her dad, and yeah, she has nothing worthwhile to contribute to the plot. She's only in the story for viewers who, like, I don't know, maybe want to imagine themselves fucking a mentally challenged person with an innocent childlike demeanor and big tits. And I'm sorry, but that is definitely not my fetish. And I couldn't tolerate her existence more than 2 episodes. So pass on that at that point, which is a shame because, like I said, the rest of the show had some potential. Like, I like what I saw in the beginning, but that girl ruined it for me. It was like, no, sorry. That show just got too pandering for me. So anyway, yeah. Bye-bye Girly Air Force. Also bye-bye Boogie Pop and others, which looked interesting with all the, mysteries it set up, but I was just not in the mood for like a complicated, convoluted mystery box at that point, or in this season, I guess. And maybe I harbored some resentment towards it because this is the show that kept Shingo Natsume from directing season 2 of One Punch Man. I don't know. So, not a fan. Or at least not interested enough to keep on watching. I mean, what I saw looked interesting, but I just didn't go back to it.
That's fair.
So what's another show that you checked out, John? And dropped?
Another show I checked out was Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka.
Yeah, same for me.
Ow, the edge.
It cuts so deep.
That is my 3-word review of Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka. And, it's really unfortunate when your show has the acronyms MGS in it in that order because, it gives me hope. It gives me just a little bit of hope for this world. Now, this show is a dumpster fire. It was trying. I know I've said it before and I'm going to keep saying it. It was so up its own ass with how edgy it wanted to be. It's like, oh, these girls have been on the battlefield, and you know what show did that better? A little show called Yuki Yuna is a Hero. That show is depressing as hell, but it makes you sort of see like the grim realities of the whole magical girl angle, because I sort of feel like it tackled the same subject matter in a better way than this did. And it had more interesting characters and a better setup where the characters were like in service of this spirit that was protecting the world, and they were at its beck and call. So it was better set up, more interesting, better character designs and animation.
I was about to say Yuki Yuna probably has better production values as well.
Yes. So don't watch Asuka, watch Yuki Yuna.
Yeah.
What's your next drop?
Well, I also dropped Asuka because, I mean, in the beginning I was like, yes, this is outrageous. This seems like maybe a really good bad show, as in so bad that it's funny. And the fucking fountains of blood in the first episode had me intrigued. It was like, hey, this could be fun to watch. But then, I didn't watch watched 2 episodes and didn't watch the third and four, and then I heard things like, oh no, they're really trying to go the serious route and trying to take this seriously, and I was like, that's not what I want from this.
Also a bit much.
I just want this to go over the top and be super dumb and crazy and and not try to be too depressing and everything, because the way the show looks and with the setup and everything, that wouldn't work for me. So that's that. The last show I dropped is Grimm's Notes, the animation, which I also stuck with for a while. I like the idea of going through all these weird gamified versions of classic fairy tales. And if you know these stories, they put some nice spins on them. We have the Cinderella storyline in there. We have stuff like Don Quixote and stories like that. And yeah, it's interesting enough. There was a cool setup, I thought, for the villain Loki, who seemingly only enabled the fairy tale characters to escape their pre-written destiny, which on the surface seemed kind of noble, since the stories in this world constantly repeat themselves, play out all over and over again, because that's how the original storyteller in this world wrote them. And considering how some of those tales go, that kind of imprisons the main characters of those tales in literal hell loops, because some of those fairy tales are really dark and there are really bad things happening to those characters or the people they love or whatever. So him basically enabling them, giving them the power, or people around them the power to free them from those chains, was kind of like, hey, wait, is he the secret good guy of this? Or does he just do this because he likes to create chaos? So that sounded interesting. I would have liked to see where they would go with this. But a lot of the story beats were just too basic, and the main characters were fun, but even after a couple of episodes, the show hadn't done anything interesting with them in terms of character development. So I just kind of lost the drive to keep up with that show. And yeah, I might be missing out on something. Again, definitely some potential. And if you're a fairy tale nut, the actual ones, not the anime by the same name, you might like it. But for me, it just wasn't enough to keep it around.
It's probably more in service of the people who play the mobile game, to be honest.
I guess, or it's created as an entry point to the game. Something. Like I said, some interesting stuff in there. Definitely more interesting for some people than for others, I guess. But just not enough with the main characters for me. I needed something to latch onto there, and there was just nothing there to the point I watched. So yeah. Kind of a shame, but there were enough other interesting shows this season, so I don't feel too bad. John, do you have one more? I think.
Yes, it was Bermuda Triangle Colorful Pastoral.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, I was initially interested in this because it was animated by Seven Arcs Pictures, and I like the work they do, because the other body of their work is one of my favorite magical girl anime of all time, Lyrical Nanoha, which has kind of been usurped in recent years by Symphogear, but that's a discussion for another day.
That might come sooner than later.
but I'll see what Seven Arcs is doing, because I haven't watched any of their stuff in a while. Oh no, it is not their best work by a long shot. Apparently, it's also like a spin-off of Card Fight Vanguard, I guess. I don't know. It was weird. It wasn't very good. It's about like mermaids living in the ocean, and it's supposed to be this like mystical, magical, everyday adventure sort of thing. It wasn't very good. So I just kind of pushed it aside, and I left it at that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not. I guess that's pretty much it for the drops.
Yes, so let's move.
It's time.
Let's move over to a show that we should probably have dropped after its first season or during its first season, but for some reason we did not.
I don't know what's wrong with me. It's not me, it's the world. The anime is wrong.
Anime was a mistake, and we will prove that to you in our next review.
All right, it's that time. It's always that time, isn't it?
Once again and again.
Sword Art Online Alicization. It is the 3rd season of the show, and I have kind of resigned myself to this fate of I have to know what happens next. Because I was saying this to a mutual friend of ours the other day. I want my distaste of sword art to be informed. I don't want to say, oh, sword art sucks. No, I want to know why it's bad. So, what is Alicization about?
Good question, actually.
A very good question, but I will do my best to line out the basic overview, and then we can just tear into it. Before I go ahead, do we give a shit about spoilers for this?
No, I'd say this is a continued series review. I mean, you have talked about the basic setup for SAO in your review of the movie Ordinal Scale, so I think we got that covered.
So I wasn't going to talk about that. I meant like for this series, this season in particular.
Yeah. So consider this like, okay, this is a continued season review, and what we do with those or have done since like 2 seasons or something is just go full spoiler. And if you want to know the basic setup of any given series, just go to the first review we did of that show where we don't spoil anything, and that would be the review of Ordinal Scale, which John did on one of our episodes, which I don't have at hand at the moment, but it's out there. So just go to our review index and search it if you are interested in Sword Art Online and just want to know the basics and don't want to be spoiled yet.
Yes, so welcome to the Alicization spoiler cast. We are your hosts. Get ready.
Yep.
So, in June 2026, our favorite hero of all time, Kazuto Kirigaya.
That's not my favorite hero.
Shut up. Yes, it is.
Okay. Kawahara commands it.
Yes, listen to Kawahara.
He doesn't know how to write women who don't love Kirito.
Oh my fucking... Kazuto, or as he's more known in the game world, Kirito, was offered a job at a private enterprise called Wrath by one of the... Is Kikuoka one of the higher-ups? They really don't sort of line that out, do they?
I think he is. I mean, he's at least a brain behind this whole operation, so it seems like he'd have an important position.
Nonetheless, Seijiro Kikuoka, he's like one of the members of the VR crimes division. Where his standing is in the company, I guess, doesn't really matter then. But he had been cooperating with Kazuto ever since the end of the whole big SAO incident in Season 1. There's your callback. So this job that he was hired for was to test out a 4th-generational full dive machine called the Soul Translator, which runs on completely different principles than the full dive machines before it. Okay, we're going to take a sidetrack here and talk about that before I keep going. So the Soul Translator basically... It's the most unscientific name, by the way. Like, let's be real. It's basically about digitizing a person's like memories and personality and experiences into like an AI construct known as a fluctolite.
Yeah.
So,
which is basically like, if you want to go spiritual, it's supposed to be the soul of a person in digitized form.
Yeah, it's
the accumulation of everything they are.
There's a lot of pseudo magic science going on here. But
lots of technobabble.
I did a little bit of reading. You might find this hard to believe, but obviously flux lights and soul translator, that's all dumb bullshit that doesn't actually exist. This sort of ties into something called quantum brain dynamics. So we're going to have to get a little scientific and go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, see if I can try and get inside of Kawahara's headspace a little bit.
A rabbit hole, you say?
Oh, yes. I didn't That is a double entendre. Ha ha ha.
Hmm.
Quantum brain dynamics are basically just, this general theory of waves within and between brain cells to show possible mechanisms of memory storage and retrieval, which is basically what soul transfer is.
Hmm.
Um, that by these two scientists, Ricciardi and Umezawa. And it ties in with this basically theoretical particle called a Nambu Goldstone boson.
Hmm.
And these bosons basically deal with again quantum physics and whatnot, and they transform non-linearly under the action of like different external stimuli, and it's weird horseshit that, like I said, kind of has roots in science that aren't really reflected in sword art at all. So it's like,
No.
so Kawahara kind of looked at it, it's like, hey, I like that idea. And he took it at like the most surface level, and it drills down even further to stuff that like this like Bardeen Cooper Schrieffer theory that deals with like the interactions between nucleons and atomic nuclei and nuclear physics and fuck. Just fuck. But I started reading about this a little bit and I was like, all right, you know what? I guess I kind of see that you're trying to do something.
Kawahara was definitely, with this one, he was definitely going out of his comfort zone. I feel like this is the most ambitious season of Sword Art yet, or the most ambitious story arc of Sword Art Online, and which really goes out of your standard, trapped in a video game setting, or let's say transported into a video game setting. I mean, Kirito gets basically still transported into a video game, but a much more complex world, which is more like a second life experience than anything else.
I mean, before we go any further, I want to say that this is my firm opinion. I don't know if you'd call this a pro or a con, but I firmly believe this is the isekai story that Kawahara wanted to write from the beginning. He just had to build up to it with all of the previous bullshit.
Possibly, I don't know. But it definitely feels more like classic isekai-ish. If you want to like put all the side stuff that happens on the side in brackets with, we got a few episodes that has the classic cast and everything, but those get tossed by the wayside pretty quickly. But everything that happens in what was it called? Underworld?
Yes.
Yeah, everything that happens in Underworld, in the world created by Wrath, is very isekai-ish, very comparable to stuff like that time I got reincarnated as a slime, Overlord, and Shield Hero. A lot of the same mechanics, or well, not the same, but mechanics you would see in a JRPG and stuff like that. But still, it feels like a very complete world that is separated from the real world in a significant way. And the previous seasons of Sword Art Online didn't really feel like that. The first season maybe the most, because the characters had no way to escape to the outside world and you didn't really see what happened to them in the outside world. But the following seasons all had like real world experiences for the character and development in the real world. They were switching constantly in between, and that doesn't happen in this season. And for many different reasons, this feels like a separate life for Kirito that he started living at some point, and then with the whole history for him there. It's not like he got suddenly thrust into this world. It's basically like he started his life over in this separate world, which is interesting, which is an interesting setup, I gotta admit.
ReZero starting life over in a new world. So anyway, I've sidetracked us enough. So basically the job that Kikuoka gives to Kirito is to test out this new full dive tech. But when he comes out of the full dive at the end of the test, his memories of, being in this VR world, underworld, are blocked as a security measure. But, unknown to him, the company wasn't actually testing the machine itself, but creating a special type of AI for military use. Darn, how about that? Who would have seen
Who
that
would?
coming?
Yeah, who would have guessed?
So there's a whole lot of dumb BS with that there, where they had copied the soul of like a newborn baby into it as a template for creating new AI. It would be specialized, it would be nurtured in this specialized VR world where time flows 1,000 times faster in the real world due to flux light acceleration. Wrath basically brought Kirito into the world with his memories restricted to test why the residents of Underworld were unable to break any of the world's laws, basically. So I guess, he was the control to see, if he would be able to go outside the bounds of the rules of the game. That comes into play, I feel, a bit more sooner rather than later, but,
Yes. Not only for him, but, for another character in the story,
yes.
one of the other main characters.
He basically lived in this VR world for an accelerated 11 years, up until a point where his influence resulted in one of the residents, a girl named Alice.
Also, sorry to interject here, but accelerated from an outside perspective. But to him, it felt like he was living that life in real time.
That's true. I did not specify that. But yes, he meets two children in there, one named Yujio and another named Alice. Alice, by accident, breaks one of the rules of the taboo index by accidentally having her hand cross the border into the dark territory.
Yeah, in a very dumb scene.
Yeah, an exceptionally dumb scene, much like the rest of this season.
Whoops, stumbled like an idiot.
So, yeah. Alice is taken away by what's called the Integrity Knights, and we don't know what happens to her, because after that point, the experiment is quote unquote concluded, and Kirito comes back to the real world with all of his memories blocked, like we said. He is escorting his girlfriend Asuna home. And then he's attacked by one of the last remaining members of the Death Gun clan, Johnny Black. During their scuffle, Johnny Black, his real name Atsushi Kanamoto, manages to inject Kirito with the last syringe of the poison that was used during the Death Gun incident. I'm not even going to try and say the name of the drug, even though I have it written down here, which causes Kirito's heart to stop. And even though doctors were able to restart his heart, Kirito suffered massive brain damage due to the lack of oxygen, and thus he ended up in a coma. And then Kirito's body was secretly spirited away by the Japanese Self-Defense Force and brought to a secret base in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where he was connected once again to one of the soul translators to treat his brain damage. He then woke up in the underworld, but with his memories of the real world still intact. And that's where we start. Holy shit. I want you to say something, anything before we go on. Like, what's your takeaway from this setup?
I mean, we could have gotten there faster, kinda.
Yeah.
It's just like in the video game, best sword fighter, and you even fought in real life now in fucking ordinal skill. Like, the whole movie was about you getting physical prowess to actually be good in an actual physical battle in the real world, and then you can fend off a dude with a fucking syringe, and you even have your.
He reaches behind his back for a sword that's not there.
Yes, it's so dumb. It's so dumb.
I am going to pose several questions to you moving forward, because I just had a whole bunch I wanted to write down. Some that I feel like I have the answers for internally. Others that I don't, and I just feel like posing to you. First question.
I might not either.
First question. Why the fuck didn't he smack the syringe out of Johnny Black's hand instead of stabbing his knee?
I don't fucking know.
Like Kirito is holding an umbrella with him,
Mhm.
and he uses the pointed top of the umbrella to jab Johnny Black in the knee instead of, I don't fucking know, maybe using the hook end of the, where the handle is, to smack his hand and get
But
rid of the
but
syringe.
but John, that's not what a sword would do. He must use it like a sword, otherwise it's not. It's not his character. It's not what he does in the game.
But what kind of sword technique is it where you go to stab someone and not slice their knee out, stab them in the? You would go for the chest or the neck or the head or the arm. Go for the arm.
I don't know. It's contrived bullshit. No question about it. It's one of the dumbest ways to get like Kirito incapacitated and mortally wounded, so to speak, and to force the story or the plot to get him into underworld again, and like turn that into the main story at that point, because he's put in a coma and transferred into underworld again until they can figure out to what is their plan anyway? How
That
do
was
they?
that was my next question. What the hell is actually going on to help facilitate his recovery?
Yeah.
We don't ever see that. We never see that.
They never follow up on that, right? It's like,
No.
yeah,
They
he's
stick him
safe
in the
now.
machine and say fuck it.
Yeah, they say he's safe now for some reason. I don't know how that stops the progression of the poison anyway, but he's safe now, but they don't really explain. Is it just, okay, we gain time and now we can work on his recovery, but they never say how they plan to do that. It's just, hey, we need to get him in the VR world again. So, yeah, it's...
We gotta get back in the game.
Get back in... It's in the game.
EA
Yeah.
Sports, it's in the game.
Yeah. It's dumb, but, it's not dumber as other stuff we've seen in Sword Art Online before, so...
I don't know,
This
it comes
felt-
pretty close.
This felt kind of like par for the course, I guess. But yeah, just, I found the setup with Underworld, the world itself, I found interesting. And we'll get to why maybe a bit later.
Yeah, so going forth from there, Kirito is reunited with Yu-Gi-Oh! He's, very unassuming young man. He's tasked with having to chop down this demon tree that's sucking out the nutrients from the land all around it. But it's like this hundreds of years long task.
It's basically his daily quest for the rest of his life. Also, they're both grown up now. They're basically both the age Kirito is when he is transferred to the world again, I guess. Like in the age he is in real life, which whatever that is.
But yeah, jeez, what was after that? I'm trying to remember. When did they get the was it immediately after that they got the big badass sword? Oh right, it was I think it was Alice's sister Selka disappears, and they go to find her in what's called the End Mountains, good name. Which was basically the whole impetus for what happened with Alice, because that was where the whole thing happened with Alice got taken away by, or let her hand fall like one pinky into the territory of darkness and then got taken away. Oops, oh no.
Yeah.
And there Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh help Selka. She uses her magic to heal them.
They fight off goblins or something, right?
Yeah, they fight off goblins.
Yeah.
They find this sword there, but they're like, hey, we can't use this. There's like this object authority parameter, which is the whole video game part of it, which I guess makes sense because, hey, you can't use a sword if you're not proficient in it, and this is the way it's gamified. So you have to practice with it to get good. Who would have thought?
And that doesn't only account for swords in this world.
Oh, no.
This accounts for a lot of items. Like basically every item has a level and an item level basically, and if your level is high enough, you can use it, even destroy it. If it's not, I don't even know how you overcome that, how you can level up yourself, I guess through training. Or, as we later see, use another item with the same item level against it, which leads to an interesting thing, but I guess we'll get to that later.
Yeah. So they train with this sword, and they use it to fell the demon tree in one swift swipe. Yay! So at that moment, Yu-Gi-Oh and Kirito are allowed to select their next calling, and they decide to become, swordsmen, and they depart for Central City, where they'll train to become, actual sword wielders and find Alice and bring her back home. Everything's looking good.
They
Um,
enlist at an academy
yeah,
for sword training.
that we're just like diving into other subgenres, like the whole Battle Academy
Mm.
subgenre that was real big for several years.
There's something for everyone in here.
It's really Kawahara just had like all of these ideas and was like, I'm gonna do them all at once. Asuna and Sukuha try to go pay Kirito a visit at the hospital, but they find out that Kikuoka has secretly transported him onto the JSTF ocean facility, the Ocean Turtle,
Hmm.
and Riko Kojiro, who was one of Kayaba Akihiko's assistants and like his former lover, because we have to bring Akihiko back into it every fucking time somehow.
Of
Uh,
course.
she gains permission to go aboard with this, and she basically sneaks Asuna aboard. She's disguised as this woman named Mayumi Reynolds. Oops, it wasn't this woman named Mayumi Reynolds all along. It was actually Asuna. How do you let that happen? How do you not do a background check and find out, oh, this person doesn't exist? There's other things like that that happen with Asuna later on that I will also get to.
She's
That
not in this season for long, really. So
It's there that Kikuoka explains to Asuna and Rinko about Kirito's brain damage and that they're using STL technology to restore it. And this is where he reveals that the main focus of Underworld is to create advanced AI. Uh, Even though the experiment has proved successful, they noted that by establishing the Church of Axiom inside Underworld, the AIs have managed to completely eliminate all kinds of transgressions, including murder, asterisk, from their community, and that they needed someone with years of experience in VR MMORPGs. God, that abbreviation is stupid. Like Kirito, to interact with them to develop the AIs further. That is the big aim of Project Alicization. There's your title drop.
which is formed by a pretty dumb acronym.
Yeah,
Alice, which is also confusing because one of the characters is Alice, but Alice is short for artificial labile. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Intelligence cybernated existence. Holy shit. Uh,
I had to look it up because I didn't remember. Yeah, yeah. What?
I only had written down in my show notes Alice is a dumb acronym, and I didn't write down what it was an acronym for. I was like, okay, wait, let me look this up. Holy shit, yeah, it is a dumb acronym.
So basically, it's just this big adaptive AI system that they keep hammering into the ground. Blah blah blah. Yeah, Kikuoka says that all of his actions since the development of the nerve gear were to this end. They really sort of start painting Kikuoka in a really villainous light pretty early on.
Yeah, he seems of questionable character.
Like
But then
he
they
start,
completely, then that completely gets tossed by the wayside for the rest of the season. So let's see if they go anywhere with that in the next part.
yeah, I mean Asuna's like, I'll never forgive you, but I'm thankful for the days that I spent with Kirito and Aincrad. Fuck off. So it's been 2 years since Kirito, 2 years in the underworld, excuse me, sorry, since Kirito and Yujiro left Rulid Village, and they are now the primary trainees of the North Centauria Imperial Swordmaster Academy. Why do these names got to be so long, Kawahara?
Because it's a light novel. Um,
the two of them basically reflect on how they won a swordsmanship tournament in the northern town of Zakaria, and afterward gained the requirement to enroll into the academy. Their aim is to graduate from the academy as top students and stand a chance to become integrity knights. Bad goal. Which means gaining access to the central cathedral. Again, all in service of trying to find Alice.
Get her back to her family.
Kirito has training with one of his seniors, blah, 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 blah.
She is not important.
No, she's not.
A lot of characters in this show are not important.
No,
there are
they're
a lot of side characters, not even like outside all, fucking Kirito's gang and everyone. Like, those are just in one episode or something, or one or two. And then, they don't appear anymore. But even in Underworld, there are a lot of characters that appear and are only here as plot devices. Nothing more. No character development. Nothing interesting. They don't appear outside of the fucking Sword Academy arc. Nothing of importance. And even in the arc that comes after that, we have a bunch of characters who don't matter.
Are you telling me that Elite Swordsman First Seat Uolo Levantine isn't important?
I don't even know who that is. I don't remember him.
He was the one where after Kirito gets his new sword, he's training and he gets a stain on the guy's jacket completely by accident. And he's like, "Oh, your punishment," my voice isn't posh enough. "Your punishment is to spar with me."
Right, that guy.
One of Kirito's seniors, Sortolina, warns him that the Levantine family power is that of imbuing the sword with the blood of their enemies. Blah 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 blah. They fight. Guess who wins? It's Kirito.
Of course.
Yujiro and Kirito become elite students, and now one of the other elite students, Humbert Zizek, challenges Yujiro to a duel, ends up in a draw, blah, 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 blah. Basically, two of the, I guess, the understudies of Yujiro and Kirito, Ranye and Tize, they start studying under them too, and they're both, very sort of, capable. They don't really show them sword fighting a whole lot. They must have some sort of special talent in order to train under elite students like Yujiro and Kirito.
I guess that's just the system of the Sword Academy, right?
Yeah, basically.
Or
if you were someone's understudy.
Yeah, but I don't think it's always talent. Sometimes, as we can see with fucking Humbert and Reyes, it's just about societal standing, like they come from good families and everything. Yeah. So I think, no matter, be a talent or a good family, you got your way set out for you, and then you become an understudy under one of the chief students, and later become a chief student yourself, and then you get an understudy and stuff like that.
Yeah. So this, like you just pointed out, this points out Humbert's good best buddy Rios Anton Rios. And oh boy, Humbert and Rios have it out for Yujiro and Kirito, and their big plan at getting back at Yujiro and Kirito is to kidnap Ronye and Tize. See, this brings me to my next question. Why is it always got to have something about sexual assault?
Ask Kawahara, not me. I mean,
this particular episode, we're I think 11-ish episodes in at this point, 10 or 11. This particular one was the most uncomfortable it's ever been in the whole fucking series. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
And it's handled so badly. It's like, okay, we had the incredibly dumb, shitty, uncomfortable moment in a fairy dance, where I forgot his name already, that captures Asuna in a cage.
Whatever his name was, Oberon was his handle.
Exactly, the dumbass, and who then proceeds to, I don't know, lick her face and gets grabby and everything, and then Kirito just annihilates him because that had to be in there for some reason, because it's like, oh, this world is cruel and Kirito has no chance. Oh wait, he can. He can just simply cut him down. And this scene here kind of works the same way, but it also serves as a motivation, or it actually progresses the plot, because this is a pivotal moment for Yu-Gi-Oh's character where he overcomes the restrictions set up by the system. He basically, I don't know if he rewrites his own code or something like that, but it feels like that. Every time before, he was going against this what was it called, the codex? I don't know.
The taboo index.
The taboo index, right. The taboo index is like basically the set of rules that the AIs, basically the beings in this world have to follow, have to obey. If they go against it, they either get transported to the whatever, get collected by the Integrity Knights, or they get stopped with this system alert sign popping up in their eyes, and it paints them and stuff like that. And in this scene, Yu-Gi-Oh goes beyond that, and his fucking eye explodes and everything. It's a harsh scene, but it's an important moment. It's not like in Fairy Dance, where that scene did not matter. That needed nothing in that happening in that scene had any plot merit whatsoever. That, no plot progression resulted from that. That was so unnecessary. This scene is also unnecessary in how it's pulled off, but it at least serves the purpose of showing you that people aside from Kirito are able to overcome the restrictions set by the system if their will is strong enough. And that becomes important again later with another character. And, at least in that way, this scene has some merit. The way it's executed?
No.
Holy shit! It's not that this is a fucking vile, repulsing scene where like two underage girls are fucking assaulted by these buffoons. It's also, this scene is weirdly funny, while it shouldn't be. Like, there's this scene where Humbert just throws away his fucking coat, twists around on his foot, and then jumps like a fucking, I don't know, cartoon comic book villain onto the bed with openly stretched arms and a smile on his face, like, here I come! And I'm just sitting there and goes, what is going on? How tone deaf are you? What is happening here? Such a lack of respect for this fucking subject matter that's going on in this scene. I was so baffled and confused by what was happening. I was speechless. This was fucking crazy. I cannot believe they did this in the way they did. Like, I mean, holy shit.
Kawahara out and said after the fact that he apologized to the actors for having to record this scene.
Good.
And then he also said, this is my next question. Why did you write something that you openly admit you were ashamed of or embarrassed about, Kawahara?
I don't know. It's his go-to thing to make the main characters rage vomit and, overcome their mental barriers. They did that before several times when they did threaten Asuna with rape, but also her getting struck down in Sword Art Season 1 that happened before and stuff like that. Girls putting in danger is one of the laziest plot devices, and Kawahara has done that several times because he probably has not a better idea how to progress his male characters. Sorry.
I want to point out, Sword Art Online as a franchise is now 10 years old. When Kawahara started writing this, or when it started getting published, he was not a young man. He was 34. He is now 44 years old. So for him, if the excuse is something like, oh, it was young juvenile writing, man, you're 10 years older than I am. Almost 10 years older than me. I can tell you what you're writing is not a good look.
No, not really. I mean, how old was he when he wrote this chapter of the story?
I mean, I don't know when it was written, but
Even if like he probably was the age we are now when he wrote that, is my assumption. He started writing that when he was 34, maybe third or fourth or fifth chapter, and I don't know, maybe even older. Maybe he was already in his 40s when he wrote that. And yeah, that's like, I mean, I think it's really good that he recognizes that those story beats suck
But
And
here's the thing: is he going to act on that on his future works? Because everything he could be saying is just lip service.
yeah, I mean, I've heard some things that he's actually, I think he's currently writing, I don't know it was called Sword Art Online Progression or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know progressive has been a thing. I don't
Or
know
that.
exactly. I think it's supposed to be like a soft reboot, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a soft reboot, at least of the first story arc, and I think he's already like making better writing choices there. So it seems he has at least grown a bit as an author, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that he has recognized what the faults were in his other stories, especially when it comes to writing female characters. Like you have mentioned one of his statements. He has done several statements where it's like, yeah, I understand that people are unhappy with how I've written the female cast in this show, and I want to be better. I want to make that better. I'm willing to believe that he's gonna try to do that. I don't know if he'll be able to, and up to this point in the show, he is not there yet.
No.
Definitely not. Like every female character in this show, maybe Alice aside, is such a fucking either cliche or just a fucking plot device for our male characters to progress somewhere. Nothing else. Like nothing. And that is embarrassing. Yeah, it's like the fucking scene. What was that? I don't know at what point that happens, but there's a scene between Yujiro and Tise, I think, and she asks him to marry her or something. I don't even know if it was her or if it was the other girls. There you go. But it's like she thanks him for his chivalry and something, and it's like this hyper wish fulfillment garbage again. And it's like, hey, if you are a nice person, you will be rewarded with a nice girl. And it's like,
Foreshadowing.
yeah. It's not as bad in other parts of the show. It's not as insulting, not as offensive, and not as disturbing as in this particular moment, in this particular scene. But this is like the concentrated version of this. It's like, what is this? Why did this have to be in there? You could have done the progression of Yuji's character another way. This was so unnecessary. And I don't even remember when I've seen an anime being censored like the last time that way. And they did. They put black bars over the most disturbing stuff.
I mean,
or black shadows.
Crunchyroll even put up a warning on this episode about violence and violence and sexual abuse, and it's like, oh shit, I can't think of another show where they've ever done that. I guess fucking hell. I guess let's move on. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
After that scene, I was just like,
But let's aside from the rape thing that has to be in there apparently. Like I said, Yu-Gi-Oh overcomes his actual barrier, just overcomes his system default maybe, and manages to fucking cut down. I don't know. Does he cut off Ryo's hand? Right?
Yes.
Yes, and then Kirito kills Humbert. Just cuts off both arms of him. They duel, and of course Kirito just fucking whoops his ass and cuts off both of his arms, which is it's gross, but it's a kind of cool scene. I mean, he deserves it, but still, they didn't have to go to that length to make that character unsympathetic. He was an unsympathetic douche from the beginning, and I would have been down with Kirito cutting his arms off from the get-go.
God, his death rattle though was like.
It was so comical. It was just the way this was set up, the way this was staged, the way this was presented. It was so fucking over the top. I could not take it seriously.
Mm.
It was super dark. It was gross. It was violent, but it was so fucking. It was so Deadpool. It was just so fucking. It was so comic booky. Just from the scene where he jumps on the bed to that fucking ridiculous fight and his fucking grimaced face and everything. It was too comic booky for me. I could not take it seriously. But anyway, that happens. So naturally, that is not taken to, like, the other members of the academy are not too fond of that. And also, Yu-Gi-Oh breaking the taboo index, I guess, because killing is not okay, but rape is fine. And, you know, the rule set in this shows, in this fucking world is not really consistent. Like,
No, it's not.
What are the other things that are completely outlawed by the taboo index? I think theft, or there was something else ridiculous. But apparently sexual assault is okay, because Humbert and Rios would have gotten away scot-free. They were totally fine. That they were not threatened by the taboo index in any way for doing what they did to the girls. It was all just fine.
Yeah, they were doing it to other girls too. So Rania and Tise weren't an isolated incident. There was another girl, I think, Frenika, I think her name was. They were fucking bothering too. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, the index was partially changed and rewritten by the main villain of this show, and she's a fucking sociopath, psychopath, whatever you want to call it. I don't know which is the more fitting term. So maybe that was her sense of humor. I don't know, but I kind of doubt it, because it doesn't also really match her intention either. But yeah, still, it's like, what? Why? This is not consistent at all. Yeah, again, I probably rather contribute this to shitty writing than to anything else.
Yeah.
But anyway, that happens. And then, of course,
they get taken away by who else? Alice.
Integrity Knight. Oh, Alice, right. Yeah, she's the Integrity Knight that takes them away.
Yep.
Shock faces on both guys.
The boys get jailed in Central Cathedral, but Alice doesn't recognize either of them because reasons. Kirito and Yujio break out from the prison, and Alice...
That's interesting, by the way, how they break out. That's one of the things I really liked about the show, because this goes, like, again, into the RPG mechanics of it all. After that, they don't really dive into that anymore that much, at least in the whole item level thing anymore. Yeah. But that was the most interesting part up to that point, like how they made that work, because basically they're the chains they are chained to the wall with have the same item level. So they just smash them against each other, and those chains break each other, because, you know, they have the same power level, I guess. And that was just interesting. This was just a little interesting tidbit of world building. It was like, this is how this works. That is interesting. I actually like to play an RPG that works that way. So good on you, SAO. You did something interesting that got me interested into an idea of yours. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean,
to see something positive in between.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't really use it too much after that point, but it was neat while it lasted.
Yes.
So Yujio and Kirito, after escaping, faced off against one of the Integrity Knights, Eldrie. It turns out that Eldrie's sword is a divine weapon.
Every sword in this fucking show.
All the ones wielded by the Integrity Knights. They managed to jog Eldrie's memory of who he is, and it sort of starts to break the control that, like, the control that's over him. Spoilers: the Integrity Knights are brainwashed.
Mm-hmm. Memories erased, and also that's why Alice didn't recognize Yujio and Kirito.
Yes, so the boys make a break for it, where they get led towards this warp gate that takes them to this massive library, and it's basically the entirety of the cardinal system. And they meet, the head, the avatar of that system, aptly named Cardinal. Cardinal brings to the boys' attention that she has been fighting for 200 years against the master of the system, hereafter known as Administrator.
Mm-hmm. Pontifex Administrator.
Yes. Fucking hell. And, she's basically been trying to find ways to overthrow the Administrator's control and how to return the Integrity Knights back to their original state. So Cardinal allies with Kirito and Yujio to defeat the Administrator and get back Alice. And that's basically the setup for the rest of this season. It only took 13 episodes to get there.
Yes, the rest of the season is basically them going up the tower, fighting Integrity Knight after Integrity Knight. And yeah, then against the big bad, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of that in between stuff isn't too important up until they get to where Yu-Gi-Oh fights with what's his name, Berkuli?
Yes.
Yeah. Berkuli Synthesis 1. Oh yes, by the way, all of the Integrity Knights are name synthesis number, as in I assume it's the order in which they were synthesized into becoming
Berkuli
Integrity
was the
Knights.
first one.
Yes.
He's the head of the Integrity Knights.
Yes, Berkuli is, the big boss of the Integrity Knights. He faces off against Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Uses his oh, right. Cardinal imbues Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! With the knowledge to basically pull out their full strength with their weapons and their abilities and whatnot. And I think it's called like a memory release or something.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Uses his Blue Rose Swords memory release to basically freeze Berkuli solid and disable him. But their fight is kind of cut short when the Prime Senator Chudolkin appears, and he has something to say, and he petrifies Berkuli and captures Yu-Gi-Oh! And I fucking hate Chudolkin.
Who doesn't? But at this point, I don't, maybe I've missed that you already mentioned that, but at this point, they already fought like a bunch of Integrity Knights and also Alice.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of glazed over the fight with Alice because it's, I guess if you can call it this, it's kind of a turning point, at least for Alice anyway.
Yes.
I feel like all of the previous Integrity Knights up to that point are like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, there's totally one-note characters. Like, they try to do some stuff with some of them, but it doesn't really work. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to you because these are completely new characters. You don't care about them.
Like there was with Fanatio, I think her name was like, oh, I'm a woman, so you're holding back. It's like, no, I'm not. Because you're a woman, I'm not holding back. And it's like,
again, inconsistent, because nothing in this world lets you assume that women are looked down upon. Like, in terms of standing, in terms of fighting prowess, whatever. Like, the leader of this fucking religion or whatever it is a fucking woman. Like, nothing in this show makes sense or is consistent in any fucking way.
Nope.
Anyway, those fights are just, they don't really matter.
Whatever.
Like they fight two lowly psychopaths and stuff like that. It's dumb. The only thing that is in there is for the action. And granted, this is always the thing where Sword Art Online can shine the most and does so in this season again. Like, I think the fights in the show look fucking fantastic. Like,
I thought they felt a little more flat compared to the previous ones.
You think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe in some parts, but
there was just something about them that just didn't feel quite as. I don't know how to qualify it, but I don't know.
Maybe Kirito doesn't fly anymore, but no. But I think the scenery is a bit more interesting and varied this time around.
Yeah.
Not all of the fighting stages, but some of them. And you got interesting special powers, and the animation itself, I think, is great. Maybe they feel more flat because you don't give a shit about any of the characters they're fighting, and they have not been built up properly. So there's an emotional flatness.
If that were the case, I would have felt that way about the previous series too.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess we disagree on that because I really liked again how the show looked in general. Like, I think this season was A1 delivering their A game, so to speak.
I don't know. Maybe it's because the show was also directed by someone different from the first two series as well.
I mean, there's some drag here and there in terms of camera movement and everything, but I feel like most of the fighting scenes are incredibly dynamic, be it sometimes a bit too short. Like, they're very short bursts of action, and then the fight is over. Sometimes it's even just a few seconds and the fight is over. And it feels like, okay, you could have done more with that. And like I said, the characters they're fighting against, have not been built up properly, and it doesn't really matter. They're just roadblocks, and that's all they are. Like I said, the animation is good, the sound design is good. Like Yoshikazu Iwanabe added it again. I mentioned him recently in my review of Captain Tsubasa. He's responsible for the sound design in that, and in Planet With, and in previous Sword Art Online stuff. Like has this really nice crunchy sound design to it that has a lot of impact and does a lot with your subwoofer and everything. And yeah, that's again the fights feel like to me felt like the moves in the fight felt like they had a lot of impact. And it was fun to look at. I felt like the fights, even though a lot of them didn't mean anything in an emotional way, were fun to look at just from an action perspective. Maybe there were some flat. I didn't really notice it that much, but yeah, I thought this was a good looking show just in terms of animation. It was a very dynamic thing. A lot of interesting facial, over the top facial animation and stuff like that was in there too, which I also appreciated just in terms of actual moving faces. And yeah, I thought this show looked cool. Yeah. So there's that, again, to balance all our seething hatred with some positivity here. But yeah, aside from that, these fights don't matter in the long run. It's just like, hey, here are these roadblocks, and then we get to Alice, and both Yujiro and Kirito fight her, trying to get her. What is their plan? They're trying to attack her with something to get her memory back, right? I think
so. I don't.
Yujiro try. They got like these two daggers which they are supposed to use on Quinella, but they decide to use one of them on Alice so she can regain her memories. But it doesn't really work out. So and they get like a big explosion happens, and then Kirito and Alice get blasted out of the tower, and Yujiro has to continue on his own, and then later fight Broccoli. But yeah, then we got this, we got a few scenes with Kirito and Alice alone on the side of the building. Which is...
What's wrong
Even
now?
by anime logic standards, even by Sword Art Online standards, the scene where Kirito pulls up Alice at the side of the wall with no support whatsoever.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Fucking ridiculous. I was laughing so hard that it was like, come on, you might as well fly, dude. Just standing on that sword and just no balance whatsoever.
But its object authority is higher than the walls.
Of course, that's the reason for it. There aren't even any walls he can lean onto. Or, not the way he's standing on the fucking sword. It makes no sense. There's no counterweight he could use to fucking pull Alice up. At least not without falling back down himself. It makes no fucking sense.
I mean, and
anyway,
that marks the turning point where Alice sort of sees, hey, maybe what's going on here is wrong. And Kirito, sort of brings her up to speed and she says to him in so many words, if I find out you're lying, I'ma fuck you up.
But she's willing to believe him. Like, not right from the get-go, he needs to do some work to get her to see his point of view, but then she's like, yeah, maybe maybe administrator is not as good of a person as I think her to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the groundwork is laid out here for what the final confrontation might be. However, John already alluded to it. Yujiro freezes Broccoli, but then Shudulkin appears, who is like this weird mix of, you got a lot of references to fucking Alice in Wonderland in the show already, but he's like basically a combination of Humpty Dumpty and the Red Queen. That's basically what he is.
I don't know, the way he appears and disappears too gives you some Cheshire Cat vibes.
Yeah, he's a mix of several characters from Alice in Wonderland. Cheshire Cat too, yeah, definitely. Like, at least those three characters are combined into that weird, creepy ass. I don't know.
So fucking cartoony.
Yeah, he is.
In the worst way.
I mean, the voice actor is having fun with it, I guess. Good for him.
Well, I mean, it's the same voice actor as Okuyasu, so.
Yes, right. I didn't even recognize that. Yeah, but that is Okuyasu. Yes.
And he knows how to ham it up.
Yeah, and he's hamming it up. But again, doesn't really match with the rest of the things that are happening here because, kind of serious stuff. And he's like this fucking alien factor that is like over the top ridiculous. You can't take him seriously. He is creepy in a way, but he's also like dumb and funny. So it doesn't really work out. Every time he's on screen, it's like, what is this? And everything he does because he wants to fucking bang
oh my god,
Pontifex Quinella. And
they hammer home in this message about, how love is, it's supposed to be this mutual feeling. It's not something that you earn. And then he says to Quinella, hey, if I off these guys, can I bone you? Yeah, sure. All right. And he's powered by his fucking libido to kill Yu-Gi-Oh, Alice, and Kirito. And it's like, it's like, shut up. Yeah. Shut up.
Well, first, which was also a scene I wasn't too happy with, Kirito and Alice get back into the tower and ascend to the final level, and then suddenly Yuji appears before them as a fucking integrity knight, because why not? Because apparently he got swayed without much effort by Quinella / administrator to turn to her side, because she took advantage of his insecurities, whatever, and then offered him comfort. I don't know if they actually did the deed, but yeah, it definitely looked like like she was giving him a good time.
Why?
And
I don't dislike Yu-Gi-Oh.
I don't dislike him either.
But why is he a fucking idiot?
Yes.
I mean, it should be obvious to him that all of the integrity knights are under some sort of control, and yet every step of the way he's like, I won't forgive them, they're so evil and bad. And it's like, motherfucker, you let the same thing happen to you.
Yeah, it's really dumb. And the way she manipulates him and manages him to release his core protection and stuff like that, so that she can access his or overwrite his memories and stuff like that, is like, you shouldn't be that insecure about yourself anymore, because you have progressed to a point where that is not really an issue anymore. So they basically just walk his character back to an earlier point of his development, so that it makes sense that, or it would make sense if he hadn't progressed to a point further than that, for Quinella to bewitch him. And that happens. I guess because he's still naive deep down, which doesn't really make sense in regards to what he has done in the story so far. So yeah, it was kind of irritating. I was like sitting there, why are you swayed by this? This should not be happening. Didn't make sense to me. So yeah, that's pretty dumb. And yeah, he becomes an integrity knight, and him and Kirito have a brief skirmish, and then it seems like I think he freezes both of them, if I'm not mistaken. Like Yuji freezes both Kirito and Alice.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and just when it seems like, hey, Quinella has everything figured out, it turns out he actually has regained his consciousness because of a conversation, or the conversation with Kirito during the fight, or maybe only because their manly swords clashed with each other.
The confrontation between them just felt like so quick and dirty and done.
Yeah. Rushed, super rushed.
When from what I heard and I've seen other people talk about, that scene is a lot more important, and there's a lot more detail about it in the light novel. There's a lot more inner monologuing, and it's just, it's much more in depth than it's not in the show. Which I was watching, I was like, okay, all right. So this felt this whole becoming an integrity knight and then immediately breaking the control felt like nothing.
Yeah, it felt really rushed. If he got whisked away at the beginning, after the first fight in the tower, and then the rest of the story only happens with Kirito for a while, and then he suddenly appears. Kirito thinks he's dead or something, then he appears before him, and they have this 1 or 2 episode long confrontation where Kirito reminds him of who he is and stuff like that. That would have worked better. Like that, It doesn't work. It's
No.
too short. It's too rushed. It doesn't have any emotional impact. You don't believe for a second that he will stay like that. And yeah, he doesn't, of course, and wakes up from his from his mind wipe, I guess, and regains his memories, and then tries to stab Quinella / administrator with the remaining dagger. But whoops! For some reason, for some fucking reason, she is immune to iron swords.
I forgot that part. Thank you for reminding me.
They can't harm her because she cheated the system, which is her thing, granted. So maybe one should have seen that coming. In general, I don't dislike, I just want to say that, I don't dislike Administrator as a villain. Because, yeah, she's over the top, she's super evil and stuff like that. But I kind of, they're not trying to do more with her than that. And what they do with that, how they display how she's like this over the top, like evil asshole villain who's only out for himself, I feel that kind of worked for me, that approach. Like she starts as, I think, as this normal like AI girl in this world.
Yeah.
And I don't exactly know how it happens, but she becomes conscious of how the system of this world works and starts to manipulate it for her own gain. And once she finds out that this world was created by another force on the outside world, the programmers, she decides that she doesn't want to live her life cowering in fear of the quote-unquote gods on the other side, and just does what she wants with that world. And she learns basically, I don't know, to program her own world, like to code her own world and form it to her will. And I don't know exactly how it works, if she uses the Konami code or something, but fucking she up downs her way to fucking success. And basically at the last moment before she dies, she finds out how to basically rewrite her own program. And from that moment on, she is basically unstoppable. And she learns how to rewrite the memories of other people, how to manipulate them. That's how she creates the Integrity Knight. She learns how to change the codex. She learns how to basically form that world to her will. And she wants to, which is a thing that made me wonder why that codex is so weirdly inconsistent. She wants to keep this world kind of peaceful. She wants everything to follow her will, and if someone has to die for her goal to be achieved, then that person has to die. She has no problem killing off lots of people. She doesn't give a shit about the people that live in this world. But she doesn't want to give them any reason to maybe, I don't know, gang up against her and try to overthrow her. She wants this world to be, at least on the outside, on the surface, to be a happy world. So why the fuck would sexual assault not be outlawed by the fucking codex? You would think that some people would be unhappy with that not being in there.
No, it's fine though. Don't worry about it. Obviously, don't worry about it.
I don't know, man. It's just, again, the writing in this show is very inconsistent.
Why's she gotta be naked all the time?
Fan service.
I get, like, we talked about this, and you said, it's probably because she's so powerful that she just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But I don't. She really
likes her body, and
it really rubs me the wrong way. You know what other show did this? Symphogear, where Fine was like constantly naked, and even there, that rubbed me the wrong way. And I love that show.
I mean, the nakedness itself doesn't bother me that much, and I kind of feel like with Fine too, maybe. I think it fits Administrator's character in a way that it's like, hey, like you said, she doesn't give a shit, and also she's using her sexuality a lot to, sway people, to bewitch them, to do her bidding and everything. And I guess that works. So yeah, I guess I'm fine with it, but I can see how that's distracting because it's just a bunch of boobs flying around all the time during fights, and it doesn't really make any sense from an actual battle point of view, because she's, as we later find out, she is still vulnerable not against iron swords, but there are the materials in this world.
Yeah.
I don't know if she wasn't aware of that, or if she's just so fucking overconfident that she just didn't account for that. It was like, nothing can touch me, which makes her a bit dumb. But still, I think her attitude that shines through from the beginning is like, it's kind of cliche, super villainish, but I like her confidence. She's a fun kind of villain for me. She's not like this bitter, weird villain with a convoluted as hell motivation that doesn't really pan out and that doesn't make sense. She's just this straightforward, evil, sadistic piece of shit asshole that you just want to see go down in flames. Spoiler, she does.
No.
Or up in flames. Or up in flames makes more sense, I guess, considering how that scene is staged. But yeah, she feels really straightforward to me, which I appreciated considering how much nonsensical techno and lore bubble there is in this show. It's funny that the villain, for some reason, is one of the most straightforward things in this, just in terms of character motivation. So I kind of appreciated her in that way, but only in that way. Aside, she's an asshole. She's a piece of shit, but she's at least clear cut. So there's that. I still would like my villains with understandable character motivation and some, relatability, which she has none of. But at least you can kind of see where she's coming from, and she's very confident that she can achieve it and keep her status and stuff like that. So it's all right. It's all right. I've seen worse villains, and I've seen certainly worse villains in this show, in this series. So
there
you go.
Yeah. After all of that, when all is said and done, Kikuoka somehow manages to contact Kirito directly and says, you need to get Alice to the World's End altar in the Dark Territory. And then he gets cut off because the ocean turtle is under attack and power is starting to go out across the facility. And, there's electricity surging, and that might damage Kirito's fluctolay because he's still stuck in Underworld. Oh my fucking god. And at that point, Asuna decides it's a good idea to try and go in and save his boy toy. Flip the table. That's the end of the show until Battle for Underworld starts in October.
Yay!
I have my next question. Why is Asuna a fucking idiot? While she's on the ocean turtle, she dives into Alfheim to talk to the other girls and say, oh, this is what's going on. You mean to tell me that none of these other paramilitary, pseudo-governmental agents on board this top secret facility aren't fucking monitoring what she's doing and seeing that she doesn't communicate this very hush-hush, like Black Ops information to people on the outside? Do you mean for me to suspend my disbelief that hard?
Apparently. It's like, yeah, why not? I mean, the idea itself that they would invite her is already ridiculous, kind of like, or bring her onto the fucking ocean turtle.
The fact that they wouldn't have thrown her off immediately after she falsified her identity.
Yes, it's so weird. I don't even know. There's no reason why she's there. Why she should be there.
Also, why would she dive into VR at the last and worst possible moment?
Yeah, it's not really sure that she can help Kirito, and she puts herself in incredibly danger that is not... I mean, of course, she's going after the man she loves and everything, so that makes sense, but still, it's like, hey, we got a countdown here, and if Kirito is, still in here, when the power is cut out, he's gonna die, so what do you think happens to you if you go in there now? Just do that beforehand, but not when the time is literally running out. It's just... It's a bit too late. Hope for him to get out of there himself, or fucking don't. I mean, it's gonna work out. Of course, it's gonna work out, but it's a dumb choice. But I still want to go back a bit into Wonderland. No, into Underworld. Can we talk about how you know, okay, the driving plot behind this whole fucking season is Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh trying to get back Alice.
Right.
Alice is the most important thing, at least in Yu-Gi-Oh's life. Kirito has Asuna on the outside once he regains his memories and everything, and he's just in there basically to help Yu-Gi-Oh find Alice. It's not really about him and Alice anymore, really. At least from a story perspective. We all know there is some Sword Art Online writing stuff, I'll get to that, but just on a basic level, this is Yu-Gi-Oh's story, kinda. Right? Yu-Gi-Oh and Alice story. So, my question to you is, why is there no fucking interaction between Yu-Gi-Oh and Alice in the final chapter of this story? Like, there's no relevant conversation between, no interaction between, there is no real goodbye between them. You know, at the end, okay, we went full spoilers. Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, dies. Of course. Yuji's fate is fucking predictable, not only from the OPs, but yes, he had to die 3 times, actually. What the fuck? So that Kirito can finally dual wield swords in this fucking season as well, because that's his fucking gimmick, and also increase his ever-expanding harem, now with Alice too, apparently, because yeah, that's what he does. But he could there could have at least been a scene where Yu-Gi-Oh says goodbye to Alice, and I know she's not the same Alice he knows because she lost her memories, but you know, there could have been a touching scene where, I don't know, he wants to give her her memories back and she denies it for some reason, said, no, keep that with you so you will always remember me even at death, or something stupid like that. Do something heartfelt with that. Those 2 characters are the linchpin of your fucking story, and they do nothing with it. He dies, he says goodbye to Kirito because they're the best buds, and then he reunites with fucking version of Alice that he remembers in the digital afterlife or whatever it is. And meanwhile, on the sidelines, there's just the Integrity Knight version of Alice not being considered at all anymore. And I was sitting there on the couch like, wait, that's it? That's your culmination of the arc of those 2 characters? Are you shitting me? You can't be serious. I was waiting for at least one emotional moment, like one genuine emotional moment between those 2 characters, a prolonged one at the ending, and I knew Yu-Gi-Oh would be dying, and I was so sure the final scene would be between not fucking Kirito and another person for once, but between at least the 3 of them for some reason. But no, we don't get that. We don't get that. I don't understand it, John. I don't understand why. Please explain it to me. How the fuck is that an oversight? Just
no.
How do you fucking leave out how do you not finish up your most important character arc in this story? What is happening? I don't understand.
Well, you see, it has to all be about your overpowered self-insert main character.
I guess.
Do you know what's funny? This ties into my last question. Was Alice really worth saving?
Yeah, what's the whole story worth it, you mean?
Basically.
Well, I mean, it's got them to destroy admin, so there's that.
Yeah, but then now Underworld is way worse off than it was before, because obviously the next plot beat is we have to go into the dark territory and kill everyone there because fucking reasons.
Yeah. I mean, that's the question, right? This world was under a systematic, despotic control by a tyrant who just used different methods than brute force. So it is good that she is gone. The question is, what is the result from that? Is it more death and destruction, or will Kirito and the rest of the gang be able to just destroy whatever is in the dark territory before that can swap over the rest of the land? And I guess we'll see in the next season. But just as a cap-off point for this season, and I mean, I guess we'll maybe see in the next season if they do more with Alice, but that specific story beat between her and Yu-Gi-Oh was, again, the setup for this whole fucking season. 24, 26, 25,
24.
Something like that. 24 episodes was fucking Yu-Gi-Oh banding together with Kirito to get back his best friend. One of his best friends, Kirito being the other best friend. But 2 best friends banding together to get their other best friend back. and then you don't fucking give like the two characters who have the most important relationship in this fucking season a good closing out point of, I don't know, a moment of catharsis, a moment of payoff.
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope. You don't get shit. You don't get a payoff. Fuck you.
I am floored.
That's my take.
I don't know if this is the worst SAO has gotten writing wise, but it's definitely the most disappointing for me, because it's like I was waiting for something. I was waiting for one little thing that would like make me feel something in this show that was not confusion or anger or, well, I like the fighting scenes, I said that, but you know, that is something else. That is not emotional enjoyment. And the scene between Yuji and Kirito wasn't that great either. It was just some fucking flat sentiment, like love is something you don't seek out, it's something you give. I mean, that's a nice sentiment, but the way it was like brought across and everything, it didn't resonate, it didn't work.
Platitudes.
Yes, don't we love them? No, I cannot be. I still, just like you, trapped for eternity. I want to see what they do in the next season with Alice. I hope they do something with her besides her pining over Kirito then, which hasn't really happened in this.
I hope it doesn't happen.
It didn't really happen in this season. It's not like the typical, like, oh, after a while she falls in love with Kirito. Everything that didn't really happen, or at least I didn't notice it. But still, the way this played out, now she's part of his harem too, so maybe she learned to love him as well. Who knows? Even though she lost her memories, because she can, you know, once his true persona shines through, she finally will discover her feelings that she already had as a child for him or something. Some dumb bullshit. I liked some parts of this. I liked some parts of the world building, some parts of the RPG mechanics. I liked, like you said, I liked Yu-Gi-Oh! Most of the way in this, except for some of his, you know, dumb attitude towards Integrity Knights and some of his naivete. I liked Administrator as a villain, just in terms of how she was, her attitude, how she was constructed and everything, and how she acted towards the other character. That was fine with me. Kirito is cardboard kun as usual. He's barely any character in this as well, besides, you know, being Yuji's friend and being the guy who always wins, which is on par with the other seasons. And Alice, some parts I liked, but still, they didn't really do enough with her so far to make her really a character at this point. They could have done that. They could have made created an important emotional scene, and I wonder if that is in the books. I wonder if Kawahara wrote that, and for some reason the people who adapted this into an anime decided, no, we don't need that moment or something like that. I don't know. I haven't read the novels. I don't.
I would kind of hope so, but
I hope so too.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, that neither. It's like, it really feels like suddenly in the last moment they completely forgot about Alice as a character. It's like, yeah, you should maybe insert her into that scene there, that important emotional goodbye. Nope, fuck it, I don't get it. There's a lot about the show I don't get. Like, small aside, maybe I shouldn't even mention it, but that's also a thing that bugged me. Why in the final confrontation suddenly Cardinal appears and helps the guys for a while, and then she sacrifices herself for no reason whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever explained properly? Because I didn't understand it. Why did she do that?
Not really. I guess to buy them time. I don't know. It was very much like the rest of this show. Powerful. Very flimsy.
Yeah, but she was so powerful. She was much more powerful than Yu-Gi-Oh! And Kirito and Alice combined. So she should have been able to just
curb stomp Quinella.
Stomp Quinella, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, that was her whole goal in life. That's what she created the daggers for. That's what she got Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! On her side for. Everything was leading up to this. And then she just fucking gives up at some point. I don't know if it had something to do with the sword golem or something, and that being a creation of the souls of a bunch of humans, and she doesn't want to fight that or something like that. Listen, that is dumb. That is really dumb. That's like, what do you think happens if you give up? Like, Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh have to fight that thing and destroy it. So if you don't do it, someone else will. So fucking do it yourself. The chances increase with... I don't... This fucking show, holy shit. I didn't want to get so angry about this show, because I mostly laughed when I watched it. I mostly just laughed in wild confusion and bewilderment, and I was like, okay, I guess this is happening now. Sure, why not? This is mind-blowing.
It's okay, because in 3.5 months, the show will be back. Not only that, but on the same day that the final episode aired, Bandai Namco announced Sword Art Online Alicization Lycoris. So you can...
What is that?
You can play through the adventures of Kirito and Underworld on your PS4, Xbox One, and Steam.
I'd rather suffocate on a river of shit. I think. That doesn't sound pleasant, but it might be more pleasant than that.
Thank you, Bandai Namco.
Yes. Thank you.
You know what, though? They found a market for these games, and it's given them the money and the motivation to localize other shit that normally wouldn't. So I guess in some measure, we have Sword Art to thank for something.
Wow.
Because otherwise, we would probably... The last Tales game we got before this big localization spree started was Vesperia. We probably wouldn't have had anything after that.
Are you saying we're gonna end this Sword Art Online review on a positive note, John?
No, because Alicization is still a fucking mess. If there are people out there who enjoy this dreck, that's fine. Whatever, you do you. This whole franchise is so confused and meandering and weird and dumb, but it's here to stay. It's here forever. It prints money,
and in my opinion, it occasionally looks really good. So there's that. Yay!
If you wish to put yourself through Alicization, you can watch it on Crunchyroll. You can watch it on Funimation now. You can watch it on Hulu. Just don't complain to us that it's bad, because we told you it was. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, we could end on this, I guess. Those are nice final words. But since this is the season finale, there is one thing left to do. Best of the season! So yeah, of course we have to choose the best anime of the season. Alright, I went first on the chop and drop. John, why don't you go first on best of the season?
Well, I mean, there were so many great shows to choose from. I don't know how I could Mob Psycho 102.
I'm so surprised.
It's such an easy... Because, I mean... I didn't drop as much stuff during the season that we're currently talking about, so much as I dropped during the spring season, the shows that are currently airing. But across all of the shows that I actually finished, Index 3, no. Kotobuki, no. Sword Art, definitely no. Definitely most not no. Data Live, I mean, maybe it was at least enjoyable, and it was better. It was slightly better than I was hoping, but I mean, Mob Psycho really stands head and shoulders above all the rest of those shows, because
several head and shoulders.
Yes, I mean, because the continuation of the plots and the meaningful beats and character development we got out of it, everything about it was so good, and it's great. Watch Mob Psycho. Just do it. If you haven't done it, you've done yourself a disservice. So that is in no uncertain terms my pick. What is yours?
Well, an opposite to what you experienced this season. For me, there were just too many good shows. Ah!
Oh.
Welcome to First World Anime Problems. Your host is CC. Man, This sucked. This was just, I mean, there are worse problems to have, I guess. But man, yeah, I pretty much liked every show I reviewed this season except for Sword Art Online. Yeah, I like the emotional, rewarding, very personal story of My Roommate is a Cat. I love the over-the-top shonen sports action nonsense of Captain Tsubasa. On the other end of the spectrum of sports anime, I also really appreciated the more relaxed tone and focus on well-written character development of Run with the Wind. I dug the optimistic fantasy utopia of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. And I, of course, was completely captivated by the thrilling cat and mouse game of Promised Neverland. And any single one of these shows could have easily grabbed the top spot in any season not so jam-packed with good stuff. Or rather, any season that didn't have Mob Psycho 100 in it. Because, goddamn, what a show! What a season! Funny, intelligent, creative, emotional. And what can you say about the mind-bending presentation that has not already been said? It is a fucking feast for the eyes, for the ears, everything. From beginning to end, this is a masterpiece of a show. It's one of Bone's best. It deserves a place in the ranking of best anime of all time. And it most definitely deserves the title of best of the season on our little show.
Most definitely.
Yeah, like John said, if you haven't yet, go watch it. Don't miss out on this. You do yourself a disservice. But also, yeah, definitely check out all the other shows I mentioned in this segment. At least one of them will probably be to your liking as well. This season really had a lot of varied stuff to offer that I love to watch and would love to see more of. And in at least the case of Promised Neverland, I will. So yeah, good times. For me, more so than for John this season.
I mean, I do plan on going back to watch Promised Neverland because I heard from so many people it's good, so I want to watch it.
And it only gets better. I've heard so much good stuff about what happens in the manga currently, and everyone's like, I can't believe how good this is, what the fuck? So yeah, really looking forward to that one, but that also means that's coming back. Mob Psycho 100, I'm not sure about. Maybe for another season, but not much more, if at all. So this definitely, it must be the best of this season, because it's so fucking good. But yeah, who knows? Maybe next season, this experience will be switched around again. As it tends to happen, maybe John has the better shows to talk about. I definitely have a couple that I'm not too fond of. I can already tell you that. Or at least one of them. Well, maybe two. We'll see. But yeah, we'll take a break until all the premieres from summer season have aired. So yeah, look forward to the sneak peek of those shows in our next episode in a couple of weeks. And of course, our first review for a series from spring this year. Until then, try not to get burnt to a crisp in the cruel summer sun, and see you guys next time.
Stay hydrated.
And that is a wrap on the 76th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our shows from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vit.badcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and some interesting articles linked in our episode release posts. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter @AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
Take care, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
A classic 50-year-old tale reimagined.
A story of two unlikely companions.
And a quest to regain what is rightfully yours.